we're going to move into the Middle Ages now. One thing that I noticed that it's happening a lot in academia, specifically in British academia, but I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty sure it's happening in the US too, rewriting of what is called queer history. I've addressed this a few times already, and I've attacked people that are completely changing stuff when it comes to how things actually were, how the past panned out. But one thing that apparently is being pushed now is this. So, early British survey, queer acceptance in the Middle Ages, and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And then we have, on time, the overlooked queer history of medieval Christianity. Now, you might think, oh well, but are they going to talk about people that maybe were gay or lesbian or whatever the heck, and I don't know, they had to struggle or they had to suffer for it or they had to hide it, but somehow we know? That could be interesting, but no, absolutely not. The message is the same that we have seen already a few times when I debunked a few videos. The message is that now they are going to deny the actual hardships that people were same-sex attracted went through the Middle Ages, because once again they need to push this idea, well, you see, medieval people were okay with it. Medieval Christianity, the Pope freaking loved it. Yeah, you were gay, you were accepted. In fact, it was encouraged. I remember this video that said that homosexual relationships were encouraged within monasteries and between medieval knights, publicly. I find that disrespectful. Because you see, not only it's disrespectful to the truth, because we want to know what actually happened. The two things are mutually exclusive. Either same-sex attracted people were persecuted, and you use that as a point, because people do. Well, we were persecuted all the time, it was so difficult, so stressful, and so finally we can be whatever the heck. I mean, I don't know why you would be proud of it. I'm not proud of being straight. So to me, that's a misnomer. But at least you don't have to hide it. I'm okay with that. So that's one approach. Or you could do the other approach, which is what they're doing, and say, no, it was always loved. People loved it. Yeah, Middle Ages, yeah, knights were encouraged to be gay. Yeah, everyone was gay. You can't have both. Today, it would be easy to assume that same gender desire, particularly among men, is at odds with the history of Christianity. It is. After all, many elements of modern conservative evangelical Christianity, from the infamous campaigns of the Westboro Baptist Church. Look, I don't know what these campaigns are, but I have to be honest. As a Christian, and a Christian who is unapologetic, and a Christian who is not willing to change our faith to accommodate people's lifestyles. But sometimes Baptists are nuts. I mean, I don't know, I was brought up Roman Catholic. You can tell me all you want about Catholicism. You can tell me, oh, but Catholicism, you're fixated with Mary. Yeah, my mom was absolutely fixated with Mary, and personally, no, I only pray to God, I don't pray to Mary. And I don't have any problem with you, whatever denomination you have. To faith-based pushes for anti-LGBTQ policy, depending on the policy, give the impression that the religion is fundamentally opposed to LGBTQ community. The division, however, is not as rigid as one might imagine. Historical evidence speaks to a rich tradition of continuity in literature, philosophy, and culture that runs from antiquity all the way to medieval Christianity. Here's the thing though, antiquity already has nothing whatsoever to do with medieval Christianity, unless we're talking about the late Roman Empire after Christianization. Where same-gender intimacies were able to flourish. Even in antiquity, though, and that's why I had to make my video where I said ancient Greece was not an LGBTQ paradise, because it wasn't. And that's the same with ancient Greece. There was a lot of stigma, and unless you followed certain social norms in Rome, you would be ridiculed. You would lose your job. That's not an LGBTQ paradise. If you are a Roman man, I don't know, you're bisexual. You like women, you like men. And then you start having relationships with men. It's not like in ancient Rome you can go around and say, hey, this is my boyfriend, and everybody's like, oh, that's beautiful. No, absolutely not. It was a matter of active and passive partner. And if you are the one of higher status, you had to be the active partner. Otherwise, you would lose your career. So you still had to be the man, if you will. You had to be the masculine one. So this is just one of the many different ramifications and characteristics of Roman approach to sexuality, to desire, to procreation, and to marriage. Massive announcement. Check this out. You're gonna love it. As many of you know, or at least I think you know, I've been writing a book, my new journey into becoming an author. I've mentioned this on a few videos and on X, but this book was indeed crowdfunded. Now, any person who has donated or will donate to the crowdfunding will receive a full audiobook, and this is crowdfunding exclusive. So, as a way to say thank you to the people that have donated and supported my dream of becoming an author, if you have a minimum of $5 donation, you will receive the entirety of the audio file of the book, recorded by me with my voice, no AI involved, as a crowdfunding exclusive reward. This applies retroactively, so for all 262 donors that I've had so far, you'll get this, and anyone who decides to donate $5 or more, thank you very much, never expected, always appreciated, then you will be guaranteed a audio file of the book by the end of the crowdfunding campaign. Important, once the crowdfunding campaign is over, this audiobook version will not be made for sale. So this is, once again, crowdfunding exclusive. It's a perk. If you're interested in the audiobook, click the link in the description, and thank you so much. There are some instances that are mentioned. There is Emperor Elagabalus, who at one point says he kind of dressed up this slave as a woman, or then he dressed up himself as a woman, and then he's like, well, now we are married. Right, but first of all, he's a Syrian, so his culture is different. He's not from Italia, meaning the way the Romans used it, but he brought in his cult, his religion, his ideas, his cultural norms. And if you read it, the period sources are full of anti-imperial propaganda and anti-imperial senatorial talks that discredit him because of it. They're like, this guy's nuts. Not just because of the sexual aspect, but it's part of it too. They thought he was not right in the head, which is true because Elagabalus was insane. But also, as I say, he wasn't from there. In fact, we can find across the medieval world the potent glimmers of queer community and the role it played in formulating a language for Christian subjects and marginalized and persecuted people. Yeah, that includes the Christians, by the way. I know this is a difficult one to swallow for people who absolutely want to see Christianity as the oppressor, but the reality is that Christianity is one of the most persecuted religions in the history of mankind, and that whether it be today or whether it be in ancient times. Now, given the type of persecution we Christians receive today, which is a fact, is nothing compared to the persecution that our ancestors had to deal with, both in ancient Rome but also in feudal Japan, of course. But it's still a thing. Many stories of how queer figures maneuvered across various secular and religious spaces. Yes, exactly. They had to maneuver across it. So it wasn't encouraged. It wasn't okay, be yourself and do whatever you want. Otherwise, why did they need to maneuver across it? Medieval words share a jaw-dropping candidness about same-gender intimacies and sexuality, and can provide important evidence about how medieval writers thought about the intersection of gender and sexual desire. Individual writers is one thing, and oftentimes they had patrons, and patrons had power, and power gave them a certain level of freedom and protection, if you will. So that's very different. I personally have read, even made a video about it, I've read the personal letters written by Michelangelo, right? And the way he talks, the jokes he makes in medieval Italian, I think he liked and was attracted by one of his models, a guy, but it's Michelangelo we're talking about. And even he still had to make it into like a little bit of a joke, we're not really sure, maybe, even Michelangelo. While same-gendered relationships were not accepted within medieval Christianity. Right, exactly, what I said. So, why are we even talking? The way they are by many today, right, they also did not elicit the intense disdain that we find within the modern Christian right. How about, have you ever heard of medieval Bruges, 1558, when two boys, 19 years old and 14 years old, were flogged, branded with hot iron, and burned at the stake because they engaged in what the priests declared as unnatural sex. Same thing happened in Italy, 390 AD. Valentinian II and Theodosius weren't really for it. Burned alive in public. France, 16th century, we have a lot. 1519, 1535, 1556, composer executed in Lyon for sodomy. A woman from Fontaine who dressed as a man and married a maid was executed by burning. In Amiens, 1519, Jean Moret burned alive by a city bailiff. There is a law that goes all the way back to 6th century, and it's called Lex Julia, which was applied to punish same-sex act with death. So, I think that it's awful at a human level what these people had to go through. But people that write this stuff, they disgust me. Because what I just told you takes 5 minutes to research. And they didn't even do that, and that's disrespectful to history, to the truth, to reality, to intellectual honesty, and also to the people that were burnt at the stake. This is why I will never accept this kind of behavior. The abbot is never confused as to how, why a young, they're gonna go into twisting everything, while the reality is this. And then they publish the books, and they say, I remember this article that I read, and was this professor from California University, and he used every single buzzword that you can think of within the first 3 paragraphs on how everyone was gender fluid in the Middle Ages, and there was all sorts of sexual identity and diversity, and everybody accepted this, and it was in fact encouraged. And then they take like one case, they take 2 cases where someone perhaps was gay and nobody cared. I get it. Like the stuff that I mentioned happened. And it is disrespectful in so many ways to pretend that history was not the way it was. It's unacceptable. I don't even care what message you're trying to push. So this idea that the modern right, I get it, there are some people that are very focused, okay? I get it. But this is insane. Because last time I checked, in America or in the West, when was the last time someone was burnt at the stake because he was homosexual? No, please tell me. When was the last time that the authorities did that? No, it's going to be difficult to find that, but you know what's going to be easy to find? Is gay people being thrown off the 9th floor in an Islamic country, and yet they never address that. They never address it. So do they really care? Or is this all about power and vote?